Right, Rebecca Norton, my regular learning conversation lady. Here we're talking about something I've been using for decades because I'm so old now. And it's really, really good. And it's really positive and it's really helpful. And it's about positive feedback. And it's about a means by which, with a degree of structure, we can give tangible, positive feedback to people. And I love it. It works really well. It's simple. It's not difficult to do, and it's about positive feedback, not the difficult, crunchy stuff. So it should always be welcome and exciting and disappointingly rare. We've talked about it. We're going to show people how to do it. Is there anything you want to say about it, and indeed about yourself, before we get into it, Rebecca?
Hi, Andrew. Nice to be chatting with you again. No, I'm really excited about this. I used to play this game when we were at Guide, which is a slightly different version, but the consequences, I think you're right. I think this is a much more interactive way of giving feedback. So I'm looking forward to sharing this with people.
Well, you've given it away already. Consequences. Anybody over the age of 55, but that's not you, will know that it's about folding bits of paper. But it's about more than that. And that's what we're about to go into. Excuse me. My voice is bad this time of day, but here we go. I'm going to try. Right. So this is a positive feedback exercise, and it's built around the need to position it very carefully. So in a group of, and I would say ideally 8, 9, 10, never 16, it's too many, 4 is too few. So I'm thinking of a team or group of around about 9, 10, 11, 12 at maximum. That's the ideal. And without all the talk, let's have a look at what it's built around. It's built around 2 questions, and those 2 questions are these. Here's the first of them, and you tell me when you're seeing this as we want it to look, please, Rebecca, in presentation mode. Are you seeing that?
Yep.
Okay. So what I tend to do is I put on flip chart permanently so that people got it for reference and for guidance, 2 questions. Something about this person that really impresses me, and tell people that they will be writing a sheet of A4, A4 sheet, with everybody's name written at the bottom of it. So your own name, and only your own name, at the bottom of the sheet of paper. That's crucially important. Not at the top, at the bottom. So everyone writes their name at the bottom of a sheet of A4, and then this question, something about this person that really impresses me, is one focus question or one focus issue. So we want people to write something about this person themselves that really impresses them. Now, what they've also done, because I'm talking out of turn as ever, is once they've written their name at their bit of paper, they pass it to the person on the left. So each person has the piece of paper with the name of the person to their right. Their own piece of paper with their name on is to the person on the left. Everyone's got their paper. Everyone's got a name on the bottom. And everyone then thinks about that and says, something about Rebecca that really impresses me. Well, I'd need a whole ream of paper, so I'd be there all day. Something about this person that really impresses me. So blah, 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 what's that going to be? And just to make life even slightly more interesting, there's a second question, which is something I've seen this person do, which is now coming up, I think, that really impressed me. So you've got 2 issues. You've got one person by name, and you're being asked to write at the very top of the piece of paper. And all these things are important to get right. Name at the bottom, comments at the top, either or both of those 2 things. Something about this person that really impresses me, and or something I've seen this person do that really impresses me. That goes at the very top. Now, sorry about all this talk, but you know I need to position it right. And these 2 questions are up all the time. So there's no question that people are confused. The more times you verbally instruct people, the more likely a word would go out of context and say something different and confuse people. So they're up all the time. And for each piece of paper, so people are looking at the name at the bottom. In this case, I've got Rebecca at the bottom of the sheet of paper, and I've got one or other or both, if you can write concisely. And then, of course, what you do, because names are at the bottom of the piece of paper, once you've written your comments, you fold, hence the consequences comment, you fold the piece of paper over so that what you've written cannot be seen by anyone else. They then get a piece of paper which has got a fold in it, just one fold, because as you move the piece of paper around the group, the same name appears, but with someone else each time. So what's happened here is name at the bottom of the piece of paper, focus issues, brief statement at the top, fold, pass on. That's all you do. That is all you do.
Yeah.
What do you make of that?
Very simple, isn't it? Actually, it's a really simple way of doing it. So basically, you're going to pass that round to everybody, so everybody has written their comments on everybody's piece of paper, and that, yeah. So I think I like the idea that it's structured with those two simple questions, and that it gives, and also that the fact that I think there's something about being able to do it in your own sort of time and your own words as well. You know, in rather than you often get like an evaluation sheet at the end of the day or whatever and stuff like that, that's very sort of passive. This is much more engaging, isn't it? I think being able to see that question and knowing that the person's going to read it directly as well.
Yeah, it really does work in that way. It's one of those things that's easier to do than explain, as I've just shown. It isn't a complicated thing to do. The key things is to make sure that these two focus statements are clear and are visible and are understood by everybody. And then to ensure that the names are at the bottom, keep stressing that, because no matter how simple instructions are, somebody's going to put them at the top otherwise. Names at the bottom, comments at the top, brief, otherwise you'll have two folds and you're all the way down the piece of paper, and pass it on. That's all you do. And what you end up with at the very end, but I want to go through some of the, before you get to that point, issues in a minute, you end up with something like this, something I've kept, in this case, for a very long time, because you end up with a piece of paper like that. Are you seeing that in the big screen?
I am, yeah.
That's a real one. This is a real Andrew one. It's Andrew at the top and Andrew at the bottom. Don't ask me why, but people have Andrew twice more than I started with. So this is one I did earlier. If you ever watched Blue Peter, I don't know if they still say that. They always did in the 70s. I'm in the 70s myself, or soon will be anyway. So there's a real piece of paper. And I think that shows what we're talking about as an end product.
Yeah. Yeah, and like you said, it's nice to be able to have that, isn't it? It's one page of really positive feedback, and I've heard other people do similar things where they've kept it because it's really positive, you know. So if they're struggling or they need a bit of a boost, or you know, struggling with a bit of low self-confidence or whatever, it's nice just to be able to take that out and actually read through that.
Which is exactly what I've done over the last 35 or so years that I've had this piece of paper. Just when you think, oh, I'm totally useless. Oh, look, somebody says Andrew's depth and breadth of knowledge in all areas of leadership in this case, and funny, well-connected. Oh, here, this isn't an opportunity for me to show off here, but you're right. It's lovely to get positive feedback, and not just spoken words, because they've disappeared out of somewhere, they've evaporated. This is real, this is tangible, this is on a piece of paper. You can keep it and remind myself of it.
Yeah, and I think it's also, you can't just get away with putting, oh, this person is a really nice person. You know, you have got, it makes you think about that person as well, doesn't it? You know, in terms of, right, what have I actually seen them do, and how have they impressed me? And I think having those prompts enables you to think of something actually as well.
I think that's a really good point, because it's a cop-out sometimes. And so, let's face it, I'm making it sound simple and straightforward. It is. People are not. And particularly if you're working with a group of people who work together, there could be agendas there. There could be, well, yeah, you impressed me. I'm not going to give you scope to think you're any better than I am. So they might hold back a bit. Or as you say, cop out with the, I like working with you, or you have always impressed me, you're very nice. That doesn't mean anything. So whilst people are working on this, it's not a bad thing, without getting in their face, to say, make it meaningful, give people something worthwhile to go away with. And make it not an essay, but certainly a couple of lines. So it's not just one or two words. Again, these are the narrative to push around whilst it's taking place, because you are absolutely right. I have seen people cop out and say, you're really lovely. And then you get people say, oh, I don't really know people well enough to do this. And I think that's also very often a bit of a cop-out. But that's about using real teams more often than, for instance, a group in a training course that have been there just for the day.
Yeah. I think that's probably quite an important context to add around that, isn't it? It would work much better with a team who've been working together for some time, because you will have experience to draw on. Then you can sort of say, well, actually, I remember seeing, a couple of months ago, Andrew, I really appreciated it when he could see that I was feeling a bit miserable. He went and made me a cup of tea and we sat down and had a chat about it.
Which is great. And which might appear to be trivial, but it's not. And it's the things that don't normally get said. And I think this is what we're really getting to. What are people impressed by, but they keep to themselves? What could they more often say that would help build relationships and show appreciation? And there are a couple of other logistical points it's worth bringing up here, because when this is being done, and it doesn't get done instantly, allow the time it takes. If you've got a group of, say, 9 people, this could take 20 minutes at least just to write these out. You will get bottlenecks. Some people will find 4 or 5 of them sometimes stacked up because they're taking more time over it. They're thinking about it. They might be finding the words harder to come by. They might be repeating themselves. That might be something people say. I find myself saying the same things. That's okay. Just say the things you feel are appropriate. And I say to people all the time, positive statements, positive comments. People sometimes fear, are you going to do a second round of negative ones? Get that out of the way. Tell them you're not going to, because that can sometimes inhibit them. I'm not going to say nice things, because when we do the next round, you're going to say something nasty to me. So tell them that's not going to happen. That can clear their head. At the end, tell them to do one of themselves. So when you get Rebecca's back, tell Rebecca and everyone else, give yourself some positive feedback. You know yourself better than anyone else in the room. What have you seen yourself do that has impressed you recently? What are you impressed by about yourself? Give yourself a pat on the back and make sure people do that. And then when they've done them all, and make sure you're not rushing anybody, they'll finish at different times, reveal with impact together. There's lots of unraveling going on. And then watch faces, because that's what you get. You get the, wow, and people say, this is the most feedback I've had since I was at school. And it's certainly a lot more positive feedback than most people had since they're at school. So it's a good thing to wait for them all to reveal at the end. And then, because this is all for a purpose, make sure there's enough time at the end you give yourself to say, right, what we got from this? What are you going to do differently? What has this made you think that we should do more of in the workplace? Because after all, you're not just doing it to fill time, it's for that purpose at the end.
Yeah. And I think it maybe, I would possibly have some tissues ready at this as well. I know that because potentially, like you said, people don't always get a lot of positive feedback, and it can be quite emotional, but in a good way, to actually recognize that you are a valued member of the team. So I think being prepared for that as well. I know, it might not happen very often, but it might on occasion. So I think being prepared for that is fine as well. And just like you say, giving people that space to be able to read through them in their own time and absorb them, and then think about, what do we do next with it? And perhaps, because if you understand the positivity of having some of that, it might encourage people to be a little bit more open and honest without having to go through this exercise. If you spot somebody doing something that's impressed you, why not just say it there and then?
Well, that is absolutely right. And that's typically what comes out of it. Whether people go away and do that, of course, is always my hope, but you've no control over it. You don't follow people around saying, you said you give more positive feedback. You haven't done it so far, and it's Thursday. But it's the simplicity, and as you say, the structure, because there is a definite structure. Do this, then do that, then do this. So you get a consistency at the end of it all. And there's something else I was thinking about that's worth getting over in this conversation. And that is, just before you do the total reveal, in that moment when everyone's ready, ask the question, what are you feeling right now? Because you'll lose that moment straight after the reveal. And to capture people's feeling of typically anxiety, worry, hey, come on, this is positive. You're unexpected. People are so worried about feedback because the word is associated with bad news.
Yeah, That's a really good point, actually. And yeah, what a nice exercise to do. How are you feeling now? Get them to open it up. How are you feeling now?
You got it?
Yeah.
It's that simple. And yes, I've got mine. I've left it upstairs because I had the photo of it. I've got mine. I was introduced to this by social skills trainers of the YMCA that I had the joy of working with in my first year as a management trainer when I was 22. And I learned so much from these very expert people that had a bag full of these sorts of exercises, and they knew what works, and this does. And so that's all you have to do. There's no great complexity about it. It's really as simple as that. Is there anything else that is worth us digging around and explaining to people who might give it a go?
I think, like you say, I think people need to give some context around it. Set it up so people know it is a positive exercise. Like you say, there isn't going to be a negative follow-up with this. This is just, and sort of, again, yeah, maybe some purpose behind it as well. You know, can you see any particular situations where it would be useful to do this sort of exercise?
That's right, because sometimes we assume people know what we're thinking, and we need to explain. Not because people are daft, because they're not thinking what we're thinking. So we're doing this for a purpose. The purpose is to do it more often and to cause more people to feel like you did when you said something pretty obvious, perhaps, but is left unspoken.
Yeah.
Ah, well, that's good. So I think I'd like to think that anyone who goes out there and does it comes back and tell us how it went. So we're always interested to know that. I'm going to carry on using it. You'll use it yourself?
I will try this out, actually. Yeah, I like it. And maybe it would be a good one to do at the beginning of a staff meeting or something, you know, to set it up in a really positive way.
Yeah, I think that is right. I mean, it doesn't have to be in a learning development event type context. It could be an everyday management. I mean, a lot of people have regular away days or management team meetings. This is a very good thing to insert into that. Maybe, as you say at the beginning, when the impact and the value of it can be greatest throughout the rest of the day. Lots of flexibility and adaptability, essentially a simple, structured process.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, go and try it. Definitely. Try it.
Right, and with that, we shall leave you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.